Hi everyone, welcome to Management 650. We're on week 9, so we're almost there. This is Helen, and I'm going to review a problem example that will help you solve homework problem 6. Now in homework problem 6, we see that by applying certain assumptions and conditions, we can tell whether the student T model can be used when calculating confidence intervals for the means. And I recommend that after watching this screencast, you take a look at pages 343 to 346 of our text. Now, our chapter tells us that when calculating confidence intervals for the means, we use the student's T model when the standard deviation is unknown. And very often in these problems, we find that the standard deviation is not known. So let's take a look at our problem. The histogram depicted on the right shows the amount in dollars of a sample of the last purchase at all 20 checkouts in a large store. Check the assumptions and conditions for an inference using the student's T model. So take a look at our histogram on the right. So first, let's take a look at our independence assumption. In our independence assumption, we're looking for an indication that each purchase is unrelated or independent from another purchase. Now, we can't really tell this from the actual data sample itself, but we can tell it from the situation, or in our case, examining the language in the problem. The problem tells us that the sample was selected using the last purchase at all 20 checkouts. The fact that the sample was collected only from the last purchase and not from purchases throughout the day indicate that the data were not randomly collected. So we can therefore determine that our independence assumption was not satisfied. For the independence assumption to have been satisfied, we would have determined from the problem that the sample had been collected throughout the day and not just the last purchase of the day. Next, let's take a look at our randomization condition, and we've actually already discussed this. We determined that our sample was not randomly collected because we only collected data at the last purchase at all 20 checkouts. So in order for our data to be considered randomly collected, it would have had to have been collected throughout the day. Next, let's take a look at our 10% condition. In our 10% condition, we ask, is the sample size no more than 10% of the population? Now, we know that we had 20 data points, and what we do is we divide 10% into our 20 data points, and we get 200. And we determine that it is indeed probable that the store has more than 200 purchases. We know it's a large store. So we're going to assume that our 10% condition is satisfied. And finally, let's take a look at our nearly normal condition. In our nearly normal condition, we ask, do the data come from a distribution that is unimodal and symmetric? And we're going to take a look at our histogram to determine that. We see indeed that we have a single peak in that histogram. So our distribution is unimodal, and we see that our distribution is symmetrical. So we will determine that our nearly normal condition has been satisfied. So let's review. Our independence assumption was not satisfied. We could not determine that our data were unrelated. Next, our randomization condition. Our randomization condition was not satisfied. We only collected data at the end of the day and not throughout the day. So we could not determine that our data was randomly sampled. 10% condition, on the other hand, was satisfied. We determined that the sample was less than 10% of the population. Our nearly normal condition was also satisfied. We took a look at our histogram and we saw that the histogram had a single peak, it was unimodal, and that our histogram was symmetric. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to your tutors or your professors. We're here to help you, and we hope you have a great week.